Hey everyone, it's Christine, your friend who's walking with you from the path from grief to growth. Hmm. Today, I just want to slow things down and first off say thank you for all your support, love, likes, comments on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, um, so many different platforms. I so appreciate and love you. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that I think we've all been really avoiding. I know I have. And maybe it wasn't the right approach, but we often do that with things that causes anxiety or fear or even make us sick. I went off to California and decided to relax and take some me time and enjoy my children. And I brought back COVID. Hmm. A word that even when I speak causes me to feel anxiety. I feel my eyes welled up. I feel so much more than if I just said the flu. In today's episode, I'm going to dive deep with you into PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, after a pandemic. I'm going to give you some techniques to make it through. I'm going to give you a few ideas on how to take care of you. And following this episode, I'm excited to bring on some nutritionists that are going to talk about how to care for ourselves in all forms of grief. Thanks you for joining me today. Let's go. Welcome to Grief Uprooted, a podcast dedicated to sharing your grief stories. Together, we embark on the mystery of one's grief journey as they learn to live, heal, and be courageous in a world rooted in trauma. Join myself, Christine, in an open discussion to help you uproot the grief in all our lives. I am an award winning author, professional speaker, and humanitarian in the field of grief and trauma. I want you to be part of the discussion. So this week I was actually going to skip. Um, I don't know if my brain is quite in focus. I've just come out of having COVID for about 10 days. So I just kind of wanted to share with you a little bit about that experience because it did cause enormous amount of post-traumatic stress disorder within me and even my colleagues, even my family. Um, I had decided every year I would go on a girls' trip. And this year we decided to go to California. And my two daughters and I wanted to go to the Walk of Fame, Rodeo Drive. This is a place we've never really explored. And so, yeah, we had this great idea and we thought we would do it. And yeah, it was kind of prepared, ready. And the last thing in my mind was illness. The last thing in my mind was COVID. So, had the hand sanitizer. That definitely became a norm after COVID. But as the trip went on, it was wonderful. We arrived, we did what we usually do. And and then as time went on through the trip, kind of near the end of the trip, um, I was starting to get a sore throat kind of, and I thought, oh, it's the air conditioner. Years ago, I went for allergy tests and they said you're allergic to dust, which I thought, well, pretty much dust is everywhere. But I have noticed with traveling with professional speaking and traveling with work that if I'm in a cabin or something like that without air, a fan is fine. I sleep great. But as soon as I have a air conditioner blowing on me, I tend to get a cold or I get congested. So I never really thought anything of it. Um, and the smart part was I started at the end thinking I don't want to um, get sick or anything. So I started to wear a mask, on the plane and things like that. It's very common still to do that. I see people do that all the time, and never thought much of it. And then when I got home, um, the drive home, I realized, wow, I feel a bit, "Ugh." And so I asked somebody else to drive us home. And that night, my muscles were killing me. And this podcast isn't really about me having COVID. Um, what it really is about is the impact that I just came to the realization that COVID is still around. Because the next morning when I woke up, I felt burning in my chest, and I felt like I took the precautions of hand sanitizer, masking when I thought, oh, I think I got a cold or something from the air conditioner. And it wasn't until I made that phone call to my doctor and just said to the secretary, I think I would like to come in. I think I've got a chest infection or a cold from the air conditioner, which has happened in the past to me. And when that secretary said, take a COVID test, I was like, what? Why would I take a COVID test? And she's like, COVID is rampant right now. And I kind of was like, it is? And in previous years, when we were heavy into the pandemic, I did get COVID. And it really was just a positive test, runny nose, bit of a body ache, but I was okay. And so I immediately took the test, and the test line was brighter than the control line, which scared the living shit out of me. And I started to go, holy crap. Like, because it was like, I think I really have COVID. Whereas before, my thought pattern was, what is our big, what are we all worried about? And immediately I called back. And thankfully, the doctor called me, listened to me, and I had this horrible, horrible rattle in my chest. And she was like, you've got pneumonia also. So I started on the meds. And I don't think I have to describe to anyone out there how uncomfortable and how fearful all of a sudden, because you start to go, wow, is this COVID? Um, my prior experiences with COVID was very mild. This experience was not mild at all. Um, Everything people talked about, body aches, not being able to breathe, being congested, feeling brain fog, all of it hit me. And it just slapped me right in the face. And thank goodness my doctor prescribed antibiotics right away, and I was able to get them right away. But the other part of this that I've dealt with is that fear. Is that fear that what if I gave this to someone who's older? What if somebody with a compromised immune system got this? In the words of my own doctor and many doctors out there, if you're a healthy individual, you will make it through. But sometimes when it goes farther in and causes infections or bacteria, such as pneumonia and things like that, it will take you down. And for myself, it felt like a super wake up call, um, in the sense of my eating and my nutrition. I love my sweets, but also taking care of ourselves, our self care, and the fact that it just naturally can hit you. Obviously, picked it up somewhere. Thankfully, nobody else did that was on vacation with me. Um, I'm very, very thankful for that. And I've made sure to confine it to myself. But it's really that PTSD that comes back up that all of a sudden now, and I have seen people out at the grocery store and things like this, and I've kind of went, why are they wearing masks? Like, don't they realize we're out of a pandemic? But I think what we're out of is the craziness of the pandemic. During the pandemic, I know a lot of you knew I came out with Corin the Corona, and it's actually wrapped in plastic wrap because of the fact of the spread of COVID. Um, and just pulling this stuff out and having to take the test again and looking at all this stuff, you kind of look back and go, wow, are we really safe now? Well, I'm here to say I think we're way better off. We have antibiotics that we can give right away. Um, but we're still impacted. And some of us have long haul COVID, right? So this is a completely different story for them. But I really think that we have to be able to realize that it's still here. Um, and it still affects us. So, Core in the Corona, actually, we wrote over 5,000 copies or printed over 5,000 copies, and we donated them worldwide. And then working with the school system and everything, we had a Core in the Corona curriculum. And this taught us how to stay safe, um, really what the government and scientists were doing with COVID and how we were all working together to collectively come back to some sort of normalization within our world. So, in choosing to do this, which I feel extremely vulnerable doing it, um, because, yeah, you don't want to be able to go out and say, hey, I got COVID, so I'm wearing a mask now, even though I'm past my 10 days of taking antibiotics and my test is negative. I want to put the mask on because I'm frightened to catch it again. I'm frightened to give it to other people, even though, I'm clear right now. Um, but there's a lot of judgment with that. You walk by people, they're looking at you, they're like, what? And so these are all my own internal challenges. And that's why I thought doing this episode, even in the brain fog that I'm in, is smart. Because one, we need to start thinking about our own health. I know a lot of you out there are in my age range. Majority of people watching this podcast or tuning in are people who are grieving. We are exhausted, exhausted. And I know I do this for a living. It is my career, but I am exhausted. We have family members we care for. That age range between 50 and 60, or even 50 and 70 now. We have aging parents. We may be taking care of an elderly parent. We may be taking care of young adults who are planning to start their life off and get married and have babies. All of this, sure, our career may be not the forefront anymore. These other things are. But all of this lends in taking your energy away, taking away time from you taking care of you. When we were younger, you know, you could just run ragged. You knew your body could repair quicker. And I think that's something that we lose sight of in this age range. We start to think, yeah, we're still tough. We still can keep going. At least I do. And I realize now that I really have to slow it down in the sense of taking care of myself, making sure that I'm eating healthy and taking it seriously. That's number 1 for my advice for you. Really hard to do because you all know the gym rat and you all know the person who is an emotional binge eater. I'm in that category. Love to eat my sweets when I'm down. Um, and how do you find that healthy balance? So I'm excited in my future episodes to be bringing in a nutritionist who specializes in grieving. And grieving doesn't just hey, we get over it. So it's not like, hey, we're going to just have this diet you should eat when you're grieving. No, you are grieving a lifetime. It's integrated into who we are. So we have to start looking at food and nutrition to help fuel us, to help heal us, but not only heal us physically, but to heal us emotionally. I think a lot of us don't realize that the foods we put in, high sugar, it's gonna make me hyper. That's why I love it. But if we take sugar away, yeah, I feel the effects on the body right away. So we want to balance that out. And I think nutrition is huge. The second, you know, positive thinking, the hardest thing to focus on, especially when you're sick and, not even just COVID. What if you're dealing with an illness now? It is so damn hard to sit on the couch and try to have positivity, especially when you're carrying an illness that you're like, is this going to be the long haul? What if I give it to somebody else? Um, am I going to feel better? And you have this brain fog, and one minute you start to sweat, which is actually happening right now. And then the next minute you're fine. And yeah, it's not menopause. I know some of you may be thinking about that, but well, I guess it could be at my age. But you know, really having that positive thinking. And during my time in COVID, I have really great friends. Um, who talked to me and helped me through that. And I loved the one suggestion that a friend gave me. She was like, write down what you are grateful for. Take yourself back to a time. And just recently, I had taken my children to a cabin up north, and she was like, take your mind back there. And I did. I closed my eyes and did some meditation and reflected on that and was like, yeah, I'll be back in that lake soon. I'll be playing with my dogs and boating and fishing and all those things with my children. Um, it's just a moment in time. So, along with that nutrition is that positive thinking and pulling yourself through and going, yeah, the way I frame this is really the way I'm going to heal. If I frame this as the world's out to get me, COVID is coming back, a pandemic is starting again. What if I give this to my parents? What if I hurt somebody with COVID? You're not going to heal. Um, I really feel when we frame it as this is a bump in the road, you have COVID, you got it. Why not take a moment and reflect on how grateful you are for everything that you have? And how do you plan on getting back there? How do I plan on getting back to that cabin? Mm. Number three, take it slow. I'm fast. You all know me so well. I'm all or nothing. So, really, just being able to do baby steps, which, yeah, shout out to my friends who told me to get my butt back into bed. And to take it easy. Really, really hard for me. But being able to put those little steps in front of myself and go, it's okay. Give yourself, some space to not have to answer every email, to not have to run to the phone every time it's ringing. Extremely hard for me. But I realized I needed to take that time to reflect and to not mentally stress myself out. Um, Plus, I don't think anything that any advice I would be giving would be very good anyways. So I was able to reply to people and say, just playing catch up. Um, because there was that stigma in my mind that I did not want to have to say, sorry, I have COVID. So I was like, just got home playing catch up. And that's really um my next tip for you, and I've lost if it's 4 or 5, I apologized, but to really be real. And what I mean by that is, and I'm sure you obviously know what I mean, but is the denial. of having COVID because I'm afraid of the judgment, really. And I think a lot of us are like that, where, putting the mask on, using hand sanitizer. Um, COVID just wasn't something that hit us physically. It became very political. It became really deep for some people. And it's very, very controversial when we talk about it. And I think that's why I wanted to do this episode to say no matter where it came from, how it came about, it's caused grief. And it's caused long grief. It will be something we speak about for the rest of our lives. It'll be something our grandchildren and their grandchildren will speak about. And that causes you fear. That scares the crap out of you. And for me, this was a huge wake up call that smacked me in the face and made me go, it's still there. And instead of being frightened of it, instead of freaking out, I think it's okay to take a deep breath and go, the pandemic is over. And there are things we can do for ourselves and for the people we love by isolation, masking up, hand sanitizer, but more important, taking care of ourselves, making sure that our health is a priority while we're grieving. And we may grieve a lifetime. So that means our health should be important for a lifetime. I'm good now. I feel good. And as the days go on, I will just get better and I'll be back at it. So I want to say thank you for giving me a place to share my fears from over the last 10 days. Mm. I feel stronger now, but I had um, I never experienced COVID at this level. For me, it was very limited when I did have it during the pandemic. And to get pneumonia and things like that afterwards, it just shows you a different side. And I'm glad I'm over it and I'm glad I'm better. But I thought it was an important thing to share with you so that we realize that grief is not always about the dying. This is somewhat of a living grief. I'm living and I'm grieving. And that's what we need to look at. That grief comes in so many different forms. And we have to look at it all. We can't turn a blind eye to something because it just makes us uncomfortable. We need to look at it straight in the eye and understand it and know that we can heal. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Grief Uprooted professional grief and empowerment coaching are not to be used as a substitute for professional advice by legal, medical, financial, business, spiritual, or other qualified professionals. All our products and services are designed for grief empowerment through learning and sharing of one's lived experiences.